Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into the significant advancements made by one particular player in the AI field throughout 2025, DeepSeek.
That's right.
We've been looking through quite a few articles, research papers detailing their progress this year.
Yeah.
And our mission really is to unpack the key takeaways, specifically looking at their unique approach, focusing on efficiency, their open source commitment, and achieving pretty impressive performance on complex tasks.
It's a really interesting sort of counterpoint in the AI landscape right now.
Us.
While, so much of the talk is about the absolute biggest models pushing boundaries,
Right.
DeepSeek's been pursuing this slightly different, very pragmatic path this year.
Yeah.
And these sources really highlight why that focus is so relevant.
Absolutely. And as we unpack this, we'll get into some compelling details, things like dramatic reductions in those AI hallucinations.
False answers, yeah.
Exactly. And a level of mathematical precision that honestly really makes you sit up and take notice.
So, okay, let's set the scene a bit. DeepSeek has clearly positioned itself in 2025 by, well, doubling down on those core distinctions you mentioned.
Efficiency, open source, performance.
Exactly. Making their AI efficient to run, keeping that strong commitment to open source, and delivering high performance, particularly on those challenging technical tasks that often trip up more general models.
And why is that strategic focus so important right now, do you think?
Well, think about it. AI isn't magic, right? It needs resources. So efficiency directly translates to lower costs, less energy use, which is crucial as AI deployment scales up,
Makes sense.
and open source. That's vital for accessibility, for fostering innovation outside of just a few major labs. And performance on complex stuff, coding, math, nuanced reasoning, that's where AI moves from just, interesting to genuinely useful for pros and researchers.
So DeepSeek's focus areas directly address those practical, real-world needs.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's look at the timeline. The source is laid out pretty clearly. They've been busy this year. It kicked off in January with DeepSeek R1.
R1 was their first big move this year, yeah. Specifically designed with complex reasoning tasks in mind. The sources suggest it was really positioned to go head-to-head with the reasoning capabilities and leading models from, the established players.
Okay. And then came March, and we saw DeepSeek V30324. What was the update there?
Right, so for their V3 model family, that March update, V30324, was all about refining the post-training process, basically how they fine-tune the model after its initial broad training.
Oh.
They took techniques they'd learned from developing R1, specifically methods involving reinforcement learning, where the model learns from feedback. And according to the research, this led to some solid improvements in both reasoning and coding for that V3 line.
Which brings us to maybe the most notable update that the material talks about from May. DeepSeek R10528. This seems to be where a lot of those performance numbers really jumped.
It certainly was a significant release, yes. The sources definitely indicate R10528 gave a real boost to both reasoning and inference capabilities.
That's it.
They specifically call out dramatic improvements in math, programming, general logic tasks, placing its performance very close, benchmark-wise, to models like OpenAI's O3 and Gemini 2.5 Pro.
Wow. Okay. Nearing that level of performance is impressive on its own, but here's where it gets really interesting, based on the sources. They report a major reduction in one of AI's, most persistent problems.
Yes, the hallucinations.
Yeah.
That R10528 update achieved a purported 45–50% reduction in the rate of those outputs, the ones that sound convincing but are just, wrong.
That's huge.
It is. And it was particularly noted in tasks like rewriting and summarizing, where accuracy is just paramount, cutting the error rate by almost half. That's a massive lead for practical reliability.
The material also mentioned solid performance in function calling and generating better front-end code and tests.
Right, exactly. And these points kind of lead us naturally into digging a bit deeper into the specific performance gains highlighted across the sources.
Let's talk numbers then. That mathematical precision figure really stood out to me.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The sources consistently point to 90% precision in mathematical tasks for their core models.
And why does that number matter so much?
Well, because for complex analytical work, data analysis, scientific applications, incorrect math just makes the whole output useless, right? So achieving 90% precision here puts them in a leading position for reliability in anything quantitative.
And crucially, they seem to be doing this while prioritizing efficiency. How does the research explain that part?
A lot of that efficiency, according to what we've read, comes down to their use of the mixture of experts architecture, or MOE.
MOE, right.
It basically allows the model to achieve really competitive performance while using less computational power compared to some of the dense models of similar capability.
So for you, the user, what does that mean in practice, like day to day?
It means potentially lower cost for deployment, whether you're running it in the cloud or, on your own hardware, and increased energy efficiency. You're getting powerful AI without needing quite so many resources.
Speed was also mentioned as an advantage, especially for technical queries.
Yes, getting accurate technical info or code suggestions back quickly, that's essential for productivity. The sources indicate their models perform well there, quick and accurate.
Let's circle back to that hallucination reduction figure for a second. 45–50% with R10528. What does getting that kind of reduction actually mean for how someone could trust and use this AI in their workflow?
It fundamentally changes the risk profile, I think. Reducing false answers by that much makes the AI far more dependable for tasks where you absolutely need accuracy, like summarizing sensitive documents, maybe assisting with research, drafting technical content. You can start to rely on it for first drafts or analysis with, well, much less intensive fact-checking needed afterwards. It's a big step towards making AI a reliable partner, not just a creative, sometimes wrong, brainstormer.
And how does their open source commitment play into that practical use, especially for technical users?
Well, the sources really highlight that the open source nature gives technical users and developers a high degree of flexibility. You can access the model weights, you can fine-tune the model on your own specific data, integrate it deeply into your existing software.
So lots of customization.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really empowers customization for specific projects or domains.
They also use a technique called step-by-step reasoning, or a chain of thought, especially in R1. Can you explain that simply? What is it?
Yeah, think of it like the AI is showing its work.
Okay.
Instead of just spitting out a final answer, the model generates an intermediate thinking process first. It outlines the logical steps it's taking to get to the solution.
Ah, I see.
And the source material gives examples where this is just invaluable.
Ah.
Solving complex math problems, figuring out tricky coding errors, breaking down scientific questions, even planning multi-stage tasks. You can follow the logic, you can verify the steps, and you understand how it got the answer. That builds trust and helps with debugging.
And just to recap, the material did point out specific improvements in function calling and R10528 success with generating
directly into, say, software development pipelines and automating more complex tasks.
Now, shifting gears slightly, one of the most unique strategic things highlighted across the sources is DeepSeek's focus on a local-first approach for deployment. This really feels like a significant divergence from the industry norm.
It absolutely is, and it seems driven by a very clear focus on user privacy and control. They've introduced this technology called DeepSeek Adapt. That's key here.
Okay, DeepSeek Adapt, what does that do exactly?
It lets the models learn and improve continuously based solely on your local interactions and data. And crucially, this adaptation happens without sending any of that data back to DeepSeek or the cloud.
Wait, so the AI gets smarter for you, running on your machine, using your info, but keeps all that information private?
Precisely that. The sources really emphasize this enables deep personalization. It allows the model to become highly specialized for your specific work or domain over time. It improves its memory, relevant to your context, all while safeguarding your data locally.
And complementing that is the option for local execution, right?
Yes. The material really stresses that users have the ability to run these powerful models directly on their own computers.
And the advantages listed are?
Pretty significant. Enhanced privacy, obviously, because your sensitive data never leaves your machine.
Yeah.
Greater control over the AI's behavior and how it interacts with your systems. And seamless integration with local tools you already use, like Obsidian, Visual Studio Code, things like that.
So for you listening right now, why would privacy and local control be such a key consideration? Why is this important?
Well, because for many people and organizations, especially those dealing with sensitive IP or regulated data, or maybe confidential client information, sending that data to a third-party cloud is just not feasible or even allowed. So the local first option provides a powerful alternative that respects those boundaries while still offering advanced AI capabilities. It's a different way forward.
Looking ahead, the sources also give us a glimpse into DeepSeek's planned expansion into multimodal AI. They aren't just stopping at text and code.
No, definitely not.
Sure.
The roadmap includes DeepSeek vision for image analysis and generation. There was a specific mention of supporting high resolutions, like 124 by 124.
And DeepSeek audio is also on the horizon.
Yeah, the planned capabilities there include very high precision voice recognition, they cited 98.7%, and natural sounding voice synthesis.
And the end goal.
The eventual aim seems to be a unified DeepSeek multimodal capability, letting the AI reason and generate content fluidly across text, code, images, audio, the whole spectrum.
So when we piece all this together, the model updates, the sharp performance gains, that unique local focus, the multimodal plans, how do the sources frame DeepSeek's main objectives for 2025? What are they really trying to do?
They consistently link these features back to some pretty clear goals: improving precision and core reasoning abilities, optimizing efficiency and cost through things like MOE driving open source adoption and customization,
And the local control part.
right, empowering users with local control and personalization via DeepSeek Adapt, and then building out those crucial multimodal capabilities. It seems quite coherent.
And the sources even give specific, measurable targets they're aiming for by the end of 2025, which is helpful context.
They do. They're targeting core models like R10528 to essentially equal the performance of leading proprietary models in key areas: reasoning, logic, coding.
That's ambitious.
It is. They're aiming to cement that 45–50% reduction in hallucination rate. Maintaining 90% plus mathematical precision is another specific goal. They plan to strengthen DeepSeek Adapt for even better local continuous learning, and they intend to launch stable versions of DeepSeek Vision and audio with high precision.
Those specific targets really underline that practical, almost pragmatic nature of their innovation focus this year, don't they?
Absolutely. The whole picture painted by the source material is one of, let's call it pragmatic innovation. They're not just chasing the absolute bleeding edge of scale, but really delivering powerful, reliable, and accessible AI solutions with a clear eye on practical benefits: efficiency, accuracy, user control.
And that's why this is so significant for you, the listener. DeepSeek is presenting a genuinely compelling alternative in the AI landscape. Powerful models that are highly customizable, potentially more cost-effective to run.
And offering robust options for privacy and data control through that local-first approach and DeepSeek Adapt.
It really does raise an interesting dynamic, doesn't it? While the tech headlines often focus on these immense models running exclusively in massive data centers,
DeepSeek's advancements this year really highlight the growing potential, the viability of powerful open source models designed to run efficiently, much closer to you, the user. So maybe here's a thought for you to consider, to mull over. As AI becomes more and more integrated into our work and lives, where do you see the optimal balance lying between, say, the raw power and scale of centralized cloud-locked AI and the growing capability, the privacy, the control offered by these efficient, open, and locally deployable systems?
DeepSeek's progress in 2025 certainly makes that question a lot more relevant, a lot more immediate.